I want to say that 2025 represents the 40th anniversary of the release of the movie Back to the Future, July 3rd, 1985. But it also represents the 45th anniversary of the conception of the idea for Back to the Future, which began in August of 1980. I was visiting my parents in St. Louis, Missouri. My father asked me to help him clean out the basement, and he gave me this box. And inside the box was his high school yearbook. Now, I attended the same high school that my dad did, not at the same time, of course. And I thought, hey, this would be cool to see what my high school looked like in 1940. So I'm thumbing through his high school yearbook, and I discover that my father was the president of his graduating class. And I'm looking at this picture of my dad, looking all very straight and serious and proper, and I'm thinking about the president of my graduating class, who was a complete bozo, you know, one of these rah-rah school spirit guys. I couldn't stand him. I mean, I was head of the student committee to abolish student government. So I thought to myself, if I had gone to high school with my dad, would I have been friends with him? And that's when I was struck by the proverbial bolt of lightning and said to myself, wow, that is a great idea for a movie. The kid goes back in time and he ends up attending high school with his dad. So when I came back to California, I told this story to my partner, Bob Zemeckis, and he loved it. He went nuts. He said, yeah, and what if your mom went to the same high school and all the stuff that she said she never did? She did. So we pitched the project right away at Columbia Pictures in September of 1980. It was the easiest pitch we ever had. The president's studio got it, and we were paid to write 2 drafts dated February 1981 and April 1981, and we turned them in, turned the second draft in, and they said, yeah, nah, this is a very nice, sweet movie. We're looking more for raunchier stuff. You guys go take this and see if you can set up someplace else. That's called, in Hollywood, that's called turnaround. They give the writers their project back to set up someplace else with the understanding that if they do set it up someplace else, the original studio will get their money back. So it's a win-win for all concerned. So Bob and I started taking the script around everywhere, and they said, oh, time travel movies don't make any money. And this is like a sweet family movie, and we don't do that. So we got rejection after rejection after rejection. And finally, I mean, everybody said, you know who would be a good company to make this movie? Disney. Take this to Disney. Now, we're in the 80s, okay? And this is the old Disney that is making movies like The Black Hole, Herbie Goes to Las Vegas, classics like that. So we don't really want to go there, but, when you're desperate, you'll do anything to get your movie made. So we submitted to Disney, and we had a meeting with an executive. His name was Tom Wilhite. We walked into Tom's office, and Tom gives us this look that could kill. And he says, are you guys out of your minds? Do you think Disney would make a movie about incest? You've got the kid and his mom in the car? Get out of here. Well, it took Bob Zemeckis to make a hit movie called Romancing the Stone that made everybody in town want to be in business with him. And everybody in town did want to be in business with him. And they said, Bob, what movie you want to make? And the movie you want to make was Back to the Future. And all this time there was one guy who always liked the script. His name was Steven Spielberg. Wow. And we made 3 pictures with Steven. I Want to Hold Your Hand, Used Cars in 1941. And we were afraid if we made a fourth movie with Stephen in a tank, they would never let us work again. But now that Bob Zemeckis had a hit under his belt, we weren't worried about that. Stephen had just set up Amblin Entertainment on the Universal lot, and we became the first movie to be produced out of Amblin Entertainment. We got set up in 1984, and the rest, as they say, is history. It wasn't that easy because the president of the studio insisted that we cast Eric Stoltz to play Marty McFly. We could not get Michael J. Fox out of his TV series Family Ties. And so, when the president of a corporation tells you you got to do something, you do it. But we resisted him in such a degree that he said, I'm so sure that Stoltz is going to be great. If it doesn't work out, you can fire him and hire somebody else. Now, he never thought we would take him up on it. But thank God we did, because Back to the Future is what it is, because we got Michael J. Fox. So lots of times people are asking, well, why Back to the Future the musical? Why did you guys decide to do that? And the origin of Back to the Future the musical goes all the way back to 2005, when Bob Zemeckis and his wife Leslie saw the producers on Broadway. And they're walking out of the theater, and Leslie says to Bob, you know what made a great musical? Back to the Future. And Bob said, yeah, you know what, it might. I'm going to kick that around with Bob Gale. So we kicked it around for a while, and we decided, okay, let's pull the trigger on that. Let's see what happens if we pursue that. Because we made 3 movies. We were not going to do a Back to the Future Part 4. We are never going to do a Back to the Future Part 4. Take that one to the bank. We're not doing any prequels. We're not doing any spin-offs. But we thought if we did a theatrical musical, that would be a way of giving the public more Back to the Future, but in a way that didn't disturb sort of the canon of the trilogy. So, first call we made was Alan Silvestri, who composed the music for the movie. The second call we made was to songwriter, lyricist Glenn Ballard, who had worked with Alan and Bob on Polar Express doing those songs. We said to those guys, what do you guys think? They said, yeah, what the hell, let's give it a shot. So they went off and they wrote some songs. They came back a few weeks later. They played they played these songs. They are still in the show. Not exactly the way they wrote them, but they're still here. And we thought, hey, this could really work. This could really work. Now, it took us, how long? 3.5, 4 years from, 4 years from when we thought of the idea of doing Back to the Future to when we finally got it made. And 10 years after that, all 3 movies were made. To give you an idea of how hard it is to mount a theatrical musical, especially one that you're thinking about taking to Broadway, we conceived this in 2005. We started thinking about it in 2006. 10 years later, again, gauging us against the movie, 10 years after the idea, we made 3 movies. 10 years after this idea, we were nowhere. We didn't have a director. We did have a producer by the name of Colin Ingram, who was the only producer that we met who thought that this was a good idea to make a musical. All these other producers said, yeah, maybe you could make a musical out of this, but how the hell are you going to do the DeLorean? Well, we did the DeLorean. You guys saw it. And we were able to pull off the DeLorean because we had a fabulous director named John Rando. Rando has a management style that I totally am in sync with, which is hire the best people that you can find and get out of their way and let them do their job. So we didn't know how to do the DeLorean, but all these brilliant tech people figured it out, and we are now all the beneficiaries in that. So here we are now on a cruise ship. If the me of today traveled back in time to September 1980, when Bob Zemeckis and I were struggling to write this script, and said, do you guys know where this story is going to go? Do you know where you're going to be in the year 2025? You're going to be on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. Bob and I would have called security, said, we've got a lunatic in our office. Get him the heck out of here. He belongs in a mental institution.